guys, today I'm going to be doing a review on the TV series 9 Bodies in a Mexican Morgue. Okay, so very quick warning before I head into my thoughts and feelings on this show. The front half of this video, I don't plan on having any spoilers. I kind of just want to give you guys an idea of what the show is, if you think it's for you or not. And yeah, I feel like as part of my review, because I have some frustrating things I need to talk about with this show, I feel like for the sake of me kind of getting out what it is that frustrated me, I have to get into spoilers. So the second half of this video, I will have spoilers. So it's up to you whether or not you want to hear those spoilers. But yeah, if you have seen the show, please watch the whole thing. Comment down below if you liked this show, if you hated this show, just let me know. So yeah, let's get going. Like I said, the front half, no spoilers. Back half, spoilers. So this is a show that, for right now, looks like it is definitely just a one and done season, and I hope it stays that way. There is absolutely no reason to do another season for this show. So yeah, for right now, it's definitely a one and done season. It aired on MGMplus, had 6 episodes. And what you need to know as far as plot goes, it's about 9 strangers who find themselves lost in a remote Mexican jungle after their small plane crashes, but their numbers lessen as they are murdered one by one. I mean, there's a dead giveaway right there. The title alone should tell you everything you need to know. 9 bodies in a Mexican morgue. Now, the thing is, though, there are 9 bodies, but on the plane, there were 10 passengers. So what does that tell you? Somebody's missing. So that is the big thing of this show, the conceit of it, if you will. You know from the immediate get-go with this show that there were 10 passengers on this plane. But yeah, at this Mexican morgue, they only have 9 bodies. So yeah, it's not really a spoiler to give that away. So it's kind of the fun of this show, week after week while you're watching it. Who's gonna make it through? You know they've all got to die pretty much. It's just kind of the thing of how are they going to die? Who's going to last the longest? And yeah, what is this big twist? Why are there 10 passengers but only 9 bodies? Let me start off with the one big positive thing that I liked about this show, which may seem silly. I really liked the opening credits of this show, you guys. That may be silly. The opening credits are just really stylish, I think. And the Eurythmics' Sweet Dreams is playing over the opening credits, and I really love that. It just gave the opening credits this nice little mood and atmosphere to it. And plus, I love the song Sweet Dreams, you guys. Oh my god. And yeah, the fun thing about the opening credits, because you see certain kind of weird, creepy images, like you see like on one shot of the opening credits, like someone's finger, there's just a finger, a bloody finger, and you see like a skull somewhere else, you see some mushrooms, and yeah, as you're watching the show, all these random images in the opening credits, as you're watching the show, you'll understand what the opening credits, what it's referencing, over time. You'll get everything kind of complete by the time you get to the final episode. So I like the opening credits because you kind of got to pay attention to them, because I think they kind of give away some clues to some degree. So let's talk about my complicated feelings about 9 bodies in a Mexican morgue, you guys. I seriously don't know how to ultimately feel. There's a part of me that I found the show fun and entertaining, because I was certainly never bored. Let me put it that way. I never felt bored. I was having a good time, and the thing is, because this was a weekly show, because this was not a binge show, because it was a weekly show, I did find myself like really looking forward on a Sunday, coming back from work and coming home and watching the latest episode. I was always really excited to watch the latest episode. So I think the show succeeded in that, kind of that thing of getting you hooked and wanting to know what the hell was going on. So it is fun and entertaining in its own way. But let's get into all the things that kind of frustrated me about this show. Okay, I don't even know where to begin. Like well, let's not talk about the characters just yet. Let's talk about the fact that this show is a very blatant ripoff of Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. And I won't get any further into that. I'm going to save that for the spoiler section if you want to know more about that. But yeah, this show is a very heavily blatant ripoff of Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. And that kind of ruined the show for me to some extent, because I guessed every plot twist of this show. I don't know if the show just thought, oh, none of these people have read And Then There Were None, or haven't even seen an adaptation of And Then There Were None. They're not going to guess anything that's happening. The thing is, I have read Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, and I have also watched like an adaptation, a TV adaptation of And Then There Were None. So I didn't find the twists and turns of this show to be shocking or surprising whatsoever. But it's like, I think the show wanted to seem like the twists and turns were shocking and surprising. But for me, they weren't. For other viewers, if you have never watched And Then There Were None, or have never read And Then There Were None, yeah, to you, this show is going to be unique and super fun, and you're not going to see the twist coming, you know? But for me, that was very frustrating, because I guessed every single plot point, every single twist. And I even kind of guessed the order of how these passengers were going to die. And some other things that I was having trouble with this show, like the characters, for starters, none of these characters are particularly likable. Let's get that out of the way. I think that's kind of just it. You're not really meant to like any of these people, you know? They're flawed human beings. They have their vulnerabilities, they have their strengths, they have their weaknesses, they have their little quirks that are irritating, you know? Yet none of them are particularly good people whatsoever. And yeah, even as you kind of get little reveals about them, some of their backstory explained, it's like, I don't care, you know, I kind of don't care. You're irritating. I hate you. I want you to die, you know. So yeah, don't go into this show to really like anybody, you know. These characters, I think, more than anything, are archetypes. It's like the show is trying to give them depth and personality, but it just never worked for me, because whenever the show was trying to give them depth and personality, a lot of times it really felt fake and phony. But then again, maybe that was with intent. You know, maybe that was kind of part of it, that these people are fake and phony, you know, and you're not really meant to care if they live or die, you know. Maybe that was part of the intent, and I just kind of maybe missed out on that. And for another thing, as plot elements and kind of some of the twists and turns kind of keep piling up in this narrative, you really have to suspend your disbelief at times. They're in a remote Mexican jungle, for crying out loud, and at one point they're trying to get like a signal out for a rescue team to come get them. So they trek up this mountain because they need to get up to the highest peak to put this signal up, so that way a rescue crew knows where to find them. So they trek up this mountain, and they're just up there in a matter of minutes, and no one looks tired, no one looks exhausted. And then, like, somewhere else in another episode, because they trek back up there again, and something happens down at the ground level, back where they have their camp, and then all of a sudden they're like from up here at the top of the mountain, which should take hours to get to, and then all of a sudden they're back at their camp. Like, and it seems like it's been a matter of minutes. So you really have to suspend your disbelief with this show, like, especially with just the nature of time, you know? And just some of the things that happen are just so whimsical and out there that I sometimes I just kind of found myself rolling my eyes like, oh, of course, the convenience, you know? So it's going to be kind of that sort of show. And another big complaint that I had with this show, again, they're out in a remote Mexican jungle. But why does it look like they're on a soundstage the whole time, you guys? For crying out loud, this is why I liked Lost so much. Because initially, a lot of people went into this show comparing it to Lost, and then kind of quickly was like, no, 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 this is nothing like Lost. So yeah, let me repeat that. This show is nothing like Lost. But yeah, you know, on Lost, back when Lost first aired, which was what, way back in like 2005, something like that, you guys? When Lost first aired, you know, that was big TV. And they were actually filming in Hawaii. You know, they were filming on the beaches of Hawaii, the jungles of Hawaii. And Lost had this really wonderful, epic, big scope to it that you felt like you were on this remote, isolated island and that no help was coming for these people, you know? And yeah, your actors looked like they were in the heat and humidity of Hawaii, you know? Characters looked filthy. They looked sweaty. And this show, again, they're in a Mexican jungle, which should be pretty freaking hot. And no one really looks particularly dirty or sweaty or exhausted or anything like that, you know? So, and yeah, once the plane crashes in the jungle, they form kind of their little base camp. And it just so very clearly looked like a soundstage the whole time. And even when they kind of trek around the jungle, you know, trying to get food and trying to get water and trying to get an idea, you know, of kind of their surroundings, the thing is, it still looks like they're on a soundstage that they only built like this little select road of a soundstage for them to kind of maneuver and walk around in, you know? So that was really frustrating for me, that there was something about this show that felt a little cheap. And that it very obviously just felt like they were on a soundstage, and I didn't feel immersed like I was in a Mexican jungle with these characters, you know, because it didn't feel that way, it didn't look that way, it just felt so compact and so tiny. And then yeah, last, even the writing I found a little bit lackluster in places. Again, the unlikable characters, the fact that even when depth and nuance is attempted to give to characters, it felt fake and phony. So yeah, the writing of the show was a little lackluster to me. And again, the very blatant fact that this was a ripoff of And Then There Were None. So that leads me, now I'm going to start to head into the spoilers now. So yeah, if you want to stop the video now, if you've not seen the show and you plan on watching the show, you know, stop right here. But yeah, I'm going to continue into some spoiler areas, kind of some of the things that still continue to frustrate me. So again, let me repeat, this feeling like a blatant ripoff of And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. And as I mentioned earlier in this video, I was able to guess, for the most part, every single twist that was coming, and I was even able to guess the order of death for all of these characters. Now, yes, there were a couple little surprises in there to some degree, but at the same time, it wasn't overly surprising. So, yeah, I was able to guess, like, the last couple episodes especially, I guessed some of the big twists immediately. Because again, a lot of these characters, they have their counterpart from Agatha Christie's book. For instance, like the characters of Sonia and Zach, they very much felt like the Philip and Vera of the group. And then Eric McCormack's character, he felt like kind of a combination of the character of Wargrave, and I believe the doctor's name and Then There Were None was Armstrong. So yeah, Eric McCormack kind of felt like a couple different characters from And Then There Were None, which I think was kind of deliberately done. So a lot of these characters kind of had their And Then There Were None counterpart, which once again, that's what kind of ruined me. Like, I knew exactly who was going to make it to like the final 4 people, you know? And then for another blatant ripoff, obviously, you have the 10 passengers, and then, yeah, the big thing, like, and Then There Were None, is the 10 little soldier boys home. So yeah, 10 little soldier boys, the 10 passengers, obviously, that mashup right there. And yeah, let me go back to the deaths really quickly, how I guessed the death order pretty much, because I had a feeling from the get-go, because Eric McCormack, he's the biggest star on this show, and I had a feeling he was going to be the mastermind behind everything. Because, yeah, in then There Were None, the book, because I'm going to be spoiling And Then There Were None here, obviously. In the book, And Then There Were None, the character of Wargrave, because he's like a judge, or he was a former judge, I think is what it was. He is the mastermind behind everything going on, why all these characters have been brought to the island, because they're all terrible people, and he's trying to punish them all. And at one point, Wargrave, he fakes his death. And he pops up at the very end of it, and Then There Were None, when the very last person is standing, which is Vera. Vera is the last person standing, and Wargrave walks in, and he kind of does his old villain spiel, you know. And I guess that with Eric McCormack, you know, Eric McCormack being the biggest actor on this show, I had a feeling he was going to be the Wargrave character, which he was. I had a feeling he was going to fake his death, which he does, because he takes Dan's body and swaps out clothes and pushes Dan's head into the water, so that way those fish eat Dan's face off. So I had a feeling, I was like, yeah, that's Dan's body. Eric McCormack is still running around somewhere. You know, he faked his death just like Wargrave. And yeah, the final two, if you will, being Sonia and Zach. Sonia played by Lydia Wilson, and Zach played by David Ajala. Guys, I love David Ajala. If I had to pick a favorite character, it would be David Ajala's character, Zach. But yeah, like I said, I had a feeling Sonia and Zach, I had a feeling they were going to be the final two, because And Then There Were None, Philip and Vera are the final two. So yeah, sure enough, the body that everyone's kind of been randomly seeing or thinking that they've been hallucinating, that random figure kind of pops up on that mountaintop, pushes Zach over the edge of the cliff. You think he's dead, and then he shoots Sonia. She's dead, you know. And then yeah, we go into the next episode, and ta-da, the reveal: Eric McCormack faked his death. I was not shocked, and I was not surprised. I knew that. I guessed it immediately as it was happening. Now, this was a little bit surprising. I'm glad that the show did something a little different, instead of keeping it so obvious, because throughout the show, they kept showing Zach's family, showing his wife and his daughter. And I kept thinking to myself, because I knew Zach was like the equivalent of Philip, like And Then There Were None. And I was like, oh, why are they showing us Zach's family when I know Zach is not going to make it? He's going to die, you know? So I liked kind of that twist there, that even though Zach fell off the mountain, he was caught by some trees. Once again, you got to suspend your disbelief. Zach was saved by some trees, and he's down there on the ground. He's severely wounded, but he makes it out. So I like that Zach made it out, because again, why else show his family? It would have felt pointless, you know. Why show that? So I'm glad that there was that little twist in there. I'm glad Zach lived, because out of all of the characters, because none of these people are likable, I think Zach is the most likable. He's the most like realistic, you know, and yeah, the depth that he is given, I think, is the most interesting and the most real. So yeah, I'm glad Zach made it out alive, and yeah, he was able, because when Kevin's character, played by Eric McCormack, you know, Kevin is, you know, riding away in that plane, and Zach is able to shoot off some bullets at the plane, and you get the idea, you know, karma is a bitch, you know. And yeah, Kevin's plane is going down. One of Zach's bullets has hit the gas line, so the fuel has been leaking out. So yeah, he's winding back up in the jungles of a Mexican jungle, you know. So yeah, karma. And yeah, we don't see Kevin die, but I imagine that he crashed and died this time, hopefully. And I guess the other thing that was a little surprising, because I didn't call this at all, Kevin killing his girlfriend, because his girlfriend was another character that we had kept seeing throughout the show, and I kept thinking to myself, okay, what's the point of her character? Why are we showing her? So yeah, once that kind of got revealed that she was working with Kevin, and you know what kind of their whole thing was with drugs, I suppose. Yeah, when Kevin just turned on her and killed her, you know, with those mushrooms came back. I did find that surprising because I did not see that coming at all. So the show did have a couple little surprises, but yeah, 95% of this show was not shocking or surprising, and I guessed the majority of it. So yeah, in conclusion, how do I feel about 9 Bodies in a Mexican Morgue? For the most part, frustrated, but at the same time, I was entertained and I had a fun time, and again, I looked forward to each episode every Sunday. So I guess the show succeeded in some ways. I don't know if it's going to be the type of show that's remembered. You know, I feel like this is the thing that people are kind of watching right now and just going to forget about. You know, by the time the end of the year comes back, when the end of the year rolls around and you're thinking about your favorite shows of the year, I just don't know if this would make the list of people's favorite shows of the year, you know? So I am. I'm definitely curious the opinions of people who have watched this show. How did you feel about this show? And yeah, have you read And Then There Were None? I think that's a big pivotal thing kind of going into this show, whether or not you've read that book, because it spoils this show massively in quite horrible ways, I feel like. So yeah, let me know how you feel about this show. Maybe you had a much more positive take on this show than I did. That's okay, that's totally fine. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.